Okay, the Voyage family, welcome back to this episode. Today we have a wonderful scholar in the house in person of Dr. Mrs. Folashade Afolabi. And I would love you, Ma, to introduce yourself to us.
All right, I am Dr. Mrs. Folashade Afolabi.
Hmm.
I am a food scientist, so I specialize in food processing. That's my real specialization.
Okay, so how was your PhD journey and your academic journey?
Hmm. You've asked a very big question. My PhD journey was rough and interesting.
Wow.
It's an interesting journey. It was an interesting journey, rather.
So what was mean by rough? Were there too many low points than high points?
There were high points and there were low points. I had so many low points and I had so many high points. And without the high points, I wouldn't be here today.
Exactly.
So it was full of high points and low points. And
which one was the lowest point?
The lowest
you can
point,
never forget.
The lowest point I can never forget was having been sick, very sick, during my PhD, to the extent that I lost the pregnancy and I almost lost my life. I was rushed on emergency from one hospital to the other. In fact, the last hospital that admitted me was UCH. You can imagine rushing me from one hospital, state hospital, to university teaching hospital, and people that saw me, they were like, this lady is gone. Everybody, they just run letter scatter, they didn't know what the outcome was going to be. But to the glory of God, I am today.
Was it due to the pressure of the PhD or
something else? Traveling, stress with pregnancy. Wow. So I didn't really have time to take good care of myself. Complications set in, and actually, the baby was fine, but I was the one that was sick. So my health couldn't carry the baby again.
Wow.
So I had to they had to eject the baby for me to survive.
So that was the lowest point. That was the lowest point. That was the highest point.
The highest point was okay. When I started my PhD, for the first 2 years there was no headway, because I have to plant. I have to plant. Then I'll be working on I worked on the harvested crops, harvested tuber. So I had to plant, and I don't have to plant for a year. I had to plant for 2 years. If you plant for a year, you analyze your harvested crop. You cannot. That does not validate the experiment. So I had to plant again, then work on it to now validate my experiment. So for the first 2 years, there was nowhere to plant. I was having little or no direction.
So in total, how many years did you spend for your PhD?
In total, I spent 7 years.
Wow. From what year to what year?
2014 to 2011, 2021 rather.
So when did you get married?
I got married before my PhD.
So you got married before your PhD. Yes. So how did you?
I even had a kid, a child before my PhD.
Wow. Okay, this is a wonderful one. So please let us know, for a mother that wants to go into a PhD program, do you think she should go ahead? What are the things you think she should prioritize? Or what are the things you prioritized?
Okay, I would really advise that if you're married and you want to further your education, maybe you had your master's degree before then you want to go into PhD.
For a woman now.
For a woman, I think I would love if the woman had stopped childbearing and the children are matured to certain age. Maybe the firstborn is relatively able to take care of the remaining children and the husband too is not that occupied. I would advise that. Or doing your PhD before getting married. It's easier doing your PhD before getting married because family, you just have to take care of your family and you just have to strike the balance, and it's not really easy to strike balance.
So how did you cope as a mother, a student, a wife? How did you balance it all?
I really want to appreciate God for the kind of man He gave me. My husband was very, very supportive. In fact, was the one always encouraging me when at my lowest points, like you said. I have a very encouraging husband. He was there for me and he's still there for me. So he really encouraged me. So the journey was, in fact, family wise, it was not that stressful because I don't stay where I study. So I have to travel to my school. He was there for me. At a point, my kids were with him and he would take very good care of them. So then so that I'll have peace of mind. When you are studying, when you are doing your research and you don't have peace of mind, you end up having zero results. But once you have peace of mind that your family back at home,
they're safe with your husband.
They're safe with my husband, and my husband is not the kind of person that I have to be like, another woman, hope another woman has. So I had
Mm.
peace. So it gave me peace of mind, and my children also, they cooperated with me. They knew I
Wow.
was doing PhD. Anytime
They see.
they see me with my laptop, my first one will say, don't disturb, tell my second one, don't disturb my mom, she's doing her PhD. To the extent that when I finished PhD and I opened my laptop, yeah, mommy, you finished your PhD. Why are you with me? I said I will continue to open this laptop forever and ever. So I had the
Wow.
support from my husband and my children and my family,
Hmm.
my sibling, my brother, younger brother, and my mom and dad. They supported me because this my PhD journey is like how will I put it? Like in my family, my daddy started it. He did not finish it. My daddy has
Wow.
he has two master's degree. He started PhD. He attempted it once or twice. He couldn't make headway. I have a brother too. My elder brother, he started it in OAU. He couldn't finish it. He went to UI. He started again. He could not finish. So I was like a prayer point. That is this
Hmm.
a what would I call it? A curse in our family.
Family to
That
start something and not
So at a
finish.
point where I was like, this page is it not by force? I know when I was facing some challenges, I like, must I do this PhD? They kept on encouraging me that, especially my mom, don't let it be a cost, magic they go and things like that. So with their support, with their prayers, and even my husband will be like, I don't want it to be that it is after you got married that you could not pursue your
Achieve your
ambition again. So
ambition.
that I just had to move forward and
And you being
do
a
the prayer.
woman and in the African, for you to do the cooking, the cleaning,
God was my strength, and it's still my strength. I I don't source my household chores out. No, I do
you still have.
everything. I have time. It's quite challenging. Sometimes when I sleep very late at night, maybe 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, I'll still be awake. My husband will be the one to come and close the laptop. Babe, don't kill yourself.
Hmm.
Things like that. It's quite challenging as a mother.
So
But
after your PhD, how was your academic journey? Or was it before your PhD that you got this academic job or after your PhD?
I got this job after my PhD. Actually had a job that is this I was teaching in a secondary school.
Okay.
But in secondary school they'll be like it's only first degree that is needed. Even your principal has his first or
First
her first
degree.
degree. So there's no point I want to prove. So I just kept quiet. I did not tell anybody that I
Mm-hmm.
had PhD, not until but I told God. I
Hmm.
said I don't want to be called doctor in this setting. A few months after I got my PhD, it was when I got this job. I just went to
Wow.
send out my resignation letter, and my principal was like, okay, in the university, have you started your PhD? I said, I finished. She said, a PhD order? I said, yes, ma. She was, wow, you're so secretive. I said, ma, it's not needed here, so why should I expose myself? I said, oh my God, that is good. In fact, I will encourage my child to also pursue his masters and the like. So she was really encouraged and she was happy for me. I came
Oh.
here
So
to
what
start
life
my.
lessons did you learn during your PhD program and how did you apply it in your academic journey?
Mm. I learned so many things. Perseverance.
Perseverance.
No matter what you're facing, you just have to persevere.
Hmm.
It's the gain at the end of what you're facing that you should be looking at. You don't look at the problem.
Hmm.
You look at the problem, solve it, but the utmost goal should be that thing, that crown that is ahead.
Ahead of
You
you.
hear? As for me, that my PhD was ahead of me, was the crown ahead of me, and me being a full researcher, then impacting life. What is that goal ahead of me? So I wasn't looking at the challenges, I was looking at the goal ahead of me, and that made me to reach out for the
Wow.
goal.
Perseverance.
Yes,
That's a very
perseverance,
nice one.
and also learned how to manage people.
Hmm.
You meet so many people, but you have a goal that you want to achieve. You just have to manage them to achieve.
Achieve what
I can
you.
work with anybody, any difficult person. The only time I will face difficulties that point of knowing that you are difficult, that point of knowing who you are. So once I know who you are, then I
Can maneuver your way
with the
around the
wisdom of
person.
God to just manage you, maneuver my way, and get whatever I want.
Wow. So during your PhD journey, how was the relation with your supervisor? And how did you gain admission for your PhD?
I had in mind, of doing my PhD immediately after my master's degree, and there's something about me. I tell good people around me my plans so that when I'm deviating or when I'm not focusing again, they bring me back to
others.
yeah, they call me back to that, they bring me back to the track. So I remember even before my master's degree, I told a friend that we're gisting in our undergraduate days, and it was like, what do you want to do after your first degree? And I said, forging ahead. Immediately you could not believe. I never knew the school I wanted to do my master, where I did my masters. The form was already out, but I never knew. It was the one that called me and said, "Babe, have you obtained the form?" I said, "Which form?" I said, so form now that for your master's degree." I said, "Wow, I never knew the form is out." I did
You
not
didn't
tell
tell
him,
him.
I wouldn't have. So for my PhD also, I also said I was going to further my academics after my master's, but I got married immediately after my master's degree. So I was looking at the stress of traveling for my PhD. I know it will involve traveling because my institution is not where I stay. So I was like, okay, family first. Let me settle down with my man first, then before I proceeded. But even at that time, that was 2013, I did not just sit down at home. I had another degree. I did
Wow.
a postgraduate diploma in education.
Wow.
So that was in 2013. I was just like, don't let me just sit down and be too relaxed. So I went for that. So immediately after, when I was done with that, then I obtained my form for PhD.
So for this PhD, were you sponsored or was there any financial difficulty and how did you cope during the
Mm,
program?
I thank God there was no financial difficulty. I told you that I was like a family project. My family were very, very supportive.
Okay.
My parents, my
So they
brother, and my
sponsored you.
yes, they sponsored me totally. There was no cost of not having paid any school fees. I paid my school fees as at when due, everything. And even at the point where I felt I would encounter financial difficulty, I had a placement for my research in IT.
Wow.
So that was why I did all the planting and all my analysis.
So we can say for your own story, family is life.
Yes.
So you appreciate your family.
I really appreciate my family.
Okay, so what was your highest point?
My highest point was I had two highest points.
Okay.
When we call something highest, it should be one. I can say two. Yes, because at a point when I started, I thought, okay, the first 2 years of my PhD, there was no headway because there was nowhere I could plant. There was no where I could carry out my research, and I did not have the money to do that. So at that time, I would just tell my husband, look at you. You think your wife is still doing PhD? You have done this thing in my mind. You're like, why? What? This one? I said, So I started, okay, I wanted to plant somewhere, but I knew there would not be headway. So in my mind, I told my supervisor they were aware that I wanted to plant in this particular site. But in my mind, I had the mind of planting and running away. When the thing is my job, go and harvest and I will just take another PhD form. At that point, and God showed up. At that point, God showed up. I got through my supervisors, I got my placement in IT where I could carry.
Wow.
That was the first highest point.
point.
And the second one was at the point when I was rounding off and support from everywhere. So everything was just moving on fast, especially with my supervisors. I had their support. So they're like, you must finish at this so time. They don't want me to exit that time, and eventually when I did my final exam, I was just like, is this all? I was so happy. But the only thing I cried that day,
wow,
sense of joy and mixed feeling because I wished my father was alive to see that day.
So you knew when you commenced?
Yes, he died a year before
you finished.
I finished.
Wow.
Yes. So I just cried. I said, hope my daddy will know that I've eventually finished my PhD. And then angels will tell him, don't worry, he knows like that. So I was just so happy that I can finish.
Okay, so what advice do you have for women out there that are scared of taking up this opportunity of doing their PhD? Or do you think a PhD is compulsory for everybody? Or masters?
It is not compulsory. But I will advise women to forge ahead. In the era we are, I'm not saying I'm not trying to say that women are taking over, but gone are the years when they will say women end their career in the kitchen. It's no more. Even the government, they are giving women opportunities. So it's not left for you to tap into those opportunities, and you cannot tap into those opportunities if you don't forge ahead.
Wow.
So it's a challenge, and you just have to, if you really want to be a superwoman, you just have to take up the challenge and face it squarely. You don't have to, there's no hindrance that you cannot succumb, as a woman.
There is no hindrance that you cannot
Of course, if you have your objective written down, if you have a goal in life, you just have to work towards getting that goal. If you really want to be a researcher, if you really want to impact into people, if you really want to know more, about your field of study, then you forge ahead.
So marriage is not an excuse.
Marriage is not an
It's
excuse.
supposed to be a blessing.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you hear that? Her marriage was not an excuse.
Never.
It was more of a blessing.
Yes.
And on this note, we are going to round off this interview. And thank you very much, Dr. Folashade Afolabi, for the wonderful experience you have shared with us.
You're welcome.
Coming from a woman perspective, I mean, really, if you want to be a superwoman like Dr. Folashade Afolabi, please just engage us in the comment section. We have a contact, we have an email. She's a mentor. You want her to mentor you. Don't worry, right? You can mentor.
Of course.
She's willing to mentor you. So on this note, thank you very much, Dr. Folashade,
You're
for
welcome.
sharing your experience. God bless you.
Amen.
So bye. See you in the next episode.
Bye.